Buying a small car in the United States is getting a whole lot better. This is the 2025 Nissan Kicks. It looks a whole lot better than the last Kicks. Everywhere you go on this car, outside, inside, tech, power, it drives so much better than the predecessor, and that's because some compact crossovers like this are just getting more competitive across all the brands. We've tested them before, and we haven't tested a Kicks in years. I am very excited about this one. Since Nissan discontinued the Juke in the US market, really small Nissans haven't been winners. The Versa Note and then the first Kicks felt and drove just as cheap as they'd looked. That's about to change. Today's small hatchbacks don't look like hatchbacks anymore. They're elevated, they're higher, they have to look like small SUVs. And Nissan's did a good job here. I think they've made it look more like a mini Countryman, especially in this paint. This is gun metallic with scarlet ember roof and mirror caps. Very different looking, especially with these funky 3-spoke wheels. Manufacturers don't really take a lot of risks, and Nissan actually is. I like that about this car. It's very tidy. The front proportions and the rear, they're very squat. The car sits low, but it's an 8.4-inch ground clearance, so that's actually pretty decent. And it doesn't really feel that small to me until you really compare it to a Rogue or some other larger SUV. Then it feels very tiny. But next to me, I could get used to driving this car every day. Nissan's new design language gets rid of what they used to call V-motif. That was the grille on the old Kicks that kind of curved down and up. Had a lot of black plastic. Well, this one does have black plastic, but it's now more refined. Nissan's using a 3-bar LED effect here on the top trim. This is the SR, and it's built into the grille, similar to what you'll find on Hyundai's new models. That feature just makes it look cooler. It really does. And everything here is just more refined. The edges, all the body panels are also a bit closer together. The gaps are better. And the lighting is excellent. LED headlights come standard across every Kicks, including in the back. And if you look closer, you'll notice a textured effect on the lower sill. That chin spoiler there, it's a nice little extra geometric effect that just makes this car a little bit more special. Now, Nissan could have left the front alone and just came to the rear and said, we're done. But they didn't. Back here, this fender swoops up, and instead of it just being a normal C-pillar like on most crossovers, there's 4 different elements here. You got chrome, you got the contrasting red roof, you got this black glass that says Kicks if you look at it from the right angle, and the body color on the bottom. That's pretty cool. Really, it does not have to be that hard, and there's also side trusses here on the tailgate glass. All that together, yes, it helps aerodynamics, it helps really cheat the wind and get better fuel economy, but it just looks cool. There's a lot of design features on here that Nissan didn't have to do, and I think it's supposed to make this car so much nicer than the first generation Kicks. When you go back here, the tailgate slightly blunt, but not too blunt. That's why there's a nice angle and rake to the back glass. And the taillights, they're all LED, all standard across every Kicks trim, and there's 3 LED tail lamps that echo the lines on the front. I just like this car. It really, for a small car, it's not easy to make something like this look so good. There's no kick when it comes to the engine. Underneath, it's only 141 horsepower and 140 pound-feet. It's a 2-liter inline-4. There's no turbo inline-3 like you'll find in the bigger Nissan Rogue, not even as an option. So you get a single engine choice and a single transmission, a continuously variable transmission. Front or all-wheel drive, that's available across all 3 trims, and fuel economy, because of that engine and the CVT, they're pretty good. The upper 20s when it comes to city, and the mid-30s on the highway. I'm gonna keep using puns, but this engine is no kick in the pants. But it's smooth, the CVT responds well. There is a sport mode. What does that do? It just keeps everything louder for longer, so don't use it. And come to grips that the Kicks is a one-size-fits-all machine. And to that end, it's not gonna go fast at all, not even gonna be quick about it. But it is very secure on the highway. It's really easy to drive around the city, which is where this car is really made to be. But at higher speeds, small cars like this, well, they drive well. They don't fall apart like they used to a few years ago, where everything was so loud, everything felt wobbly. When you get in a small car like this and you drive a longer distance, you actually feel good. These seats are supportive. The steering is excellent. Nissan has really improved the steering feel, particularly on-center accuracy, so I don't really have to move the wheel much at all. When I do this, well, the wheels are actually changing direction, as they should. This feels more in line like the company's Z sports car. It really does. They've distilled that throughout the Sentra, the Altima, even the Rogue. Really, Nissan had some of the worst steering feel that I could remember, and they've changed all that. The chassis is so much better. But back to this engine. Yeah, it doesn't deliver much. My Volvo from 25 years ago, probably a little faster to be honest, but the noise, relatively muted. And the fact that there's no gears does not bother me because the CVT responds well in pretty much every situation, drops down really nicely. So as a car in a straight line at moderate speeds, it's very enjoyable in here, I gotta say. The last Kicks that I drove was many years ago. We tested one, seems like ages ago. And really that car just felt like an economy car that you would occasionally take out on the highway. This one feels like a sorted car that can go anywhere. And that to me makes it a better car. And here's what I really mean by better. When the road curves, when it gets tighter, small city cars like the Kicks, well, this is where it kicks, to be honest. Good body control, slightly choppy ride over some rough surfaces, but not really bad, and just actual fun, because you don't need to be rocketing on a back road, but to have the level of handling and grip and steering control, it's good. This is where Nissan has improved. Toyota has also done that, as is Honda. Hyundai is getting better at it. No matter what small car you're driving these days, when you actually want to go for a nice drive, go for a trip with friends, whatever it is, the experience behind the wheel between all of these cars is kind of surprisingly good. It really is. It's more than just acceptable. Nissan specifically on this SR trim has what they call active ride control. It has a tracing control that essentially acts like torque vectoring around a curve. So it's supposed to essentially change some of the wheel torque, maybe add a little brake here and there. To be honest, I can't feel it working. Nissan really says that you shouldn't feel it working, so I guess that's a good thing. It's only available on this SR trim. I really, though, would like to have some paddle shifters just for fun, you know, just to be kind of nice. If I can get into a Subaru Forester with a CVT with paddle shifters, well, why can't I do it in a Kicks? That's the only thing really missing to me because I can't actually select any of the gear ratios, simulated gear ratios. The only thing I can do is hit the gear selector, and it does slow down the car, but I don't really have any other control other than that. That's really my only gripe. But this 2-liter engine where it doesn't really fare so well for mid-range and really low-range acceleration, under light throttle, well, it's pretty enjoyable. I would like Nissan's turbo inline 3. I think they could charge maybe $2,000 more. Put that engine here. I think they make a world of difference, really. It's so good in the Rogue, so watch our reviews of that, because we've had that engine, love it. It would fit perfectly fine here in the Kicks. So maybe they'll offer it one day, maybe they won't. So even though Nissan markets the Kicks as a crossover, an SUV, well, it doesn't really handle like an SUV, does it? I'll answer that question. Not great. Mostly because there's not a lot of power coming out of a turn, but chassis control's great, body lean's great, and the brake feel, a little soft, but for an everyday car, they got all the dynamics right. Nissan has a lot of momentum with interior design. By design, I mean stuff that doesn't look cheap and things that are actually upscale. Everything you're touching on this car really feels like you're in something premium. At this price, I like what I see. Double color stitching on the doors and console. I also like what I feel. Knee pads on the center console, padded dash, padded door panels, and soft carbon fiber look trim. It really comes together. I've been in Mercedes and BMWs that try to be really premium for a subcompact crossover in that category. They don't come off any better than this, and they cost a whole lot more. You can't get power seats in any Kicks, but what you can get, speakers in the front headrests. It delivers the type of surround sound you'd get in a $100,000 Infiniti, a QX80, We're in a Kicks and it barely costs over 30 grand. And also on the SR trim, there's a front seat side mounted airbag that goes between the two people here. So if you're in a side impact collision, you're not gonna hit each other as badly. That's not something that you're gonna find really in most any car at this price. In the back of the Kicks, you get standard rear side airbags right here as opposed to just the curtains. That's a really good safety feature a lot of cars don't offer. However, if you don't get the SR, you don't get this, and you don't get any USB ports. In fact, even rear heater vents on the floor, those are optional. Cargo space is 24 cubic feet behind the seats and 50 when folded, but that's not the entire story. If you get the front wheel drive Kicks and the SV and the SR, well, look at those numbers. They're bigger, and you're getting 60 total cubic feet if you get the front wheel drive base S. I don't know how Nissan managed to get 3 different cargo ratings, but they have. A 12.3-inch touchscreen comes standard on the SV and SR. Otherwise, it's a tiny 7-inch on the base S in the same bezel. Now, factory navigation isn't offered. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are, and of course, they are wireless. You can also get your climate control right up here, and also it's touch sensitive below. 360 cameras on the top SR trim. Nissan's always done a really good job with this. It also has moving object detection, so if you're about to hit something or something's about to hit you, it'll do it. It also has emergency rear braking as standard, so there's a lot of standard safety features on this car. Other than that, there's really not much to show you in here. Considering how big the screen is, you'd expect maybe you'd be able to do more, but this is pretty much it. Again, without a navigation or other apps of any kind, you can't really do much, but it's easy to use, and the real estate on the screen, it looks good. This 12.3-inch display is standard on the SR. It's not available on any other trim where you only get a small 7-inch. Not like every other Nissan product with this, it is really clear. You get ProPilot Assist on this top SR trim. If you want to change the view, you can see this much easier, which I also really like. It's not a hands-free system, but it works really well. And Nissan was one of the first automakers, non-luxury automakers, to do that. Plenty of settings here. And when you're in this wider view, you get nice graphics that can show you what's actually you're changing here, which is nice. Plenty of options here. This is really not at all in the touchscreen, so you have to get used to using the steering wheel instead, but it's fast and it's simple to use. I do like it. I really wish there was full screen maps, but again, there's no factory nav. The 2025 Nissan Kicks starts at around $22,000. There's 3 trims, either in front or all-wheel drive. As tested, the SR all-wheel drive was around $32,000. The competitors, the Hyundai Kona, Honda HR-V, Kia Soul, and the Toyota Corolla Cross. Like most new Nissans, the Kicks makes all the right choices. It's got high style, high interior quality, which was not a thing for Nissan for many years, and dynamic qualities that make it a really true joy to drive. It's also priced very well. Nissan's product is now a lot cheaper than it used to be. Despite rising new car prices, a car like the Kicks is actually quite reasonable. And when you load it up like this SR, I think it's a tremendous value, not just among Nissans, but across the entire segment. What do you think? You want to see more SUV reviews? We've got them. Subscribe to the CarGurus YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time.